And everything that was done to this bracket is optional.
Yeah, that's optional.
It's just a regular Warmac bracket will work.
Yeah, so the Warmac bracket, the way it is when you want to mount the motor using screws.
Correct.
And the modified one, you're going to end up using piano wire soldered to the...
You can use it as an angle winder, or you can use it as a side winder.
Yeah.
This is angle winder, but it allows you to do both. Without the screw-in brackets, it allows you to use the same bracket for either angle or side winder.
Okay.
And then on this one, you kind of do the same thing. That's 1 in the 16th.
Oh, that's 1 in the 16th. Okay.
Here in market.
Okay.
And then I use this to butt up this against that.
Oh, okay.
So
yeah, that's just right.
you should everyone should get a steel ruler.
Steel ruler.
Stainless steel, because
one of those.
And a jeweler's square, I think is what they're called.
Those are hard to find.
You can get a Micromac.
Well, yeah.
The three of them.
But you can't find them at any store.
Yeah, my son gave me this one.
I don't have them at Harbor Freight.
No, right.
Because it's too precision for Harbor Freight.
Ultimate Hobbies.
Ultimate Hobbies. Okay.
Hobby people when they were in business. You just didn't find those.
Okay.
So on this piece, I'm going to scribe it. And I'm going to scribe it here too.
Oh. Who's going? Okay.
And I scribe it that way I don't have to worry about it erasing.
You're scribing.
I'm scribing the center line of the bracket and center line of the receiver.
Okay.
Once that's done, now you have your centers. I make the bends about 1/2 inch.
And those pliers you're using are just regular?
These pliers are just these pliers. You want to get lineman pliers.
Lineman pliers.
And that they have grooves on the teeth, on the jaws.
Grooves. Oh, those are grooves.
They have grooves going horizontal.
Yeah.
To the thing. So when you're bending wire, it locks it in place, and you don't have to squeeze as much. Because they're locked in place. They come in 9-inch, 8-inch. They're called lineman pliers.
Lineman pliers.
Or nines. Make a L, and it's about, I want to say about 1.5 inches long.
Now is that the outside bend or the inside bend? That'll be the inside.
That from the inside, but I usually cut it. I mark it there, but I'll cut it longer just in case.
Okay.
And then
okay.
Square the end.
Okay.
1/2 inch bend.
Inch bend.
The pliers. Over bend to get them straight.
Over bending it. Yep.
To get a tighter radius.
Go 100 and come back to 90.
Yeah.
And then again mark this to about 1.5 inches. And just cut it a little bit longer because you can adjust later.
And that's the 055, right?
This is 055 wire. So here's
Okay.
here's the basic pieces that you're gonna need for.
Okay. Okay, act like, okay, yeah, that's good.
Okay, and then we'll insert only one side. And push the toothpick in so it kind of holds it. Put this in. And now you're going to reverse the motor mount. I'm just going to use a piece of brass.
Okay. Looks in there. All right.
Then you can take it out and reverse it. And the beauty of using the Warmac thing, you just push it up against it. So to do the tacking of the motor mount, so you would hold it in place and tack it. Just barely tack it, because once you're done with this,
Okay.
but square the.
Yeah. Square it. Yeah. Okay.
So once it's square, which you can go ahead and tack the other side.
Okay.
You can come in here and solder it a little bit more.
Oh, so a little more.
Just a little more.
A little more.
Same with this side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to solder. I'm going to run the perimeter, the full length, and it'll be.
Okay. All the way around.
Yeah. Now at this point you could check it.
Oh, you could use that as a jig.
A jig.
Just
This is my
line
jig.
it.
You can use any of your chassis.
Yeah. Right.
I can take this one right there and put this in and jig it.
Yeah.
So it should fit.
Just need a flat piece and.
Jig it like
those
if you were.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it fits. Okay. These are too long. You have to cut them to size. But okay, I'm gonna and see how this. So now what I want to do is cut these tabs. And once you start doing this, your consistency is you can use any motor pod combination on any of your chassis, just by pulling the wire out.
Yeah. Yeah.
You want different gear changes, and you don't want to sit there and change out the pinion. You have 2 or 3 of these set up with different gear ratios. Take one out, put the other one in, see how that one works with that.
Just lost your blade.
Yep.
I need safety glasses.
I was just thinking, man, I need to have safety. Okay, we just built this
Yeah.
with nothing.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
wires and everything. This one was built for this one. I just finished building this one.
Yeah. Right.
Fit right in. It has a nice wiggle.
Okay.
So that's why it was important to center it, to center everything
Yeah.
because of this line.
All right.
because everything is built on this line, on that center line. So let me go ahead and finalize the solder job on this.
Okay.
I'm gonna come over here. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and do our, this will be an inside bend, right?
Yes.
As opposed, because we want it to go from here to here.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll get my,
well, the first bend is, it's not important.
It's pretty
the
academic.
The second one is the inside bend.
first bend obviously is pretty easy.
Yeah. I like the first bend.
That's it. It's like if you're
if you struggle with the first bend, you got a problem.
And you're gonna mark the bend line parallel to this point here, right there. Right along that radius, or that line of the. Okay. Once you have it marked, that's where the inside bend. You're actually gonna, remember I told you on the other one, you mark it back. If you want it to be on the inside of your wires. On this case, you put your pliers where you mark it.
Where you mark it.
Because that's where your bend is gonna end. So you make sure it's in your over bend, come back. And theoretically it should fit. And it's a little tight. So in the case where it's a little tight, all you gotta do is bend it back up, not straight.
Yeah.
Move the plier over just a tad, and then rebend it.
Oh, okay. Oh.
And that should give you the room that you need, which and there you go.
Yeah, there you go.
And then you mark it here to cut it. I'm going to solder, tack it in here. So once that's tacked,
Okay.
I want to make sure that the wire is square and where I want it. So it's a little, well, all you would need to do is hold it with your hand. Or if you don't want to hold it with your hand, you could use vice grips or some kind of clamping. Once it's tacked and you're satisfied with it being flat up against the bracket, you can come to the other side, solder it, and release the tension on it. So now we're good. So now I can come back on the back side. Cut a little piece of solder, a regular piece of solder.
Yeah.
The length basically to go inside of the tubing. Okay, take the solder, put it inside the opening.
Yeah.
Then you're gonna get your flux. Actually, I'll tell you what, before we put the solder in, you get the flux. And you just put it inside on both sides. And you're going to get your solder.
Okay.
Put it inside.
All right.
Okay, now you get your iron. And you're just gonna hold it here.
Okay.
And you'll see this melt in a minute.
Melts that easily. That's good.
And that's it.
Okay.
If you look inside, you can see that it's all gone.
Mm-hmm.
And you can and then you can test it with the 055.
Okay, then you're using what 1/32 solder.
Yeah, this is 02. This is 020.
What you also?
Yeah. In those cases where the Warmac bracket is not available, we are going to show you how to make the same motor pod using piano wire and axle tubing and brass tubing. In video 1, we showed this assembly, and at this point, we were using the Warmac bracket for our width of the two main rails, which is, as you can see, if you don't have a Warmac bracket, what we're going to do is use a ruler, and that distance that you need to obtain is basically 1 inch and 3/16. Without the Warmac bracket, you are going to make this setup as per video 1, part 1, and make sure that you have a distance of 1 inch and 3/16 outside to outside. Okay, we're going to start this build using axle tubing 5/32 in diameter, which you can either use bushings.
What is that? 6/7?
Slick 7 bushings is what this particular bushing is, or you can use ball bearings. But the tubing that you use obviously has to be accommodate the diameter of the bushing or the ball bearing.
Yeah.
Okay. And I went ahead and made my marks. The distance, the width of the tubing is arbitrary depending on what wheelbase or what wheel track you want. It could be smaller or larger. In this case, this is going to be for GTP, and the distance for this is about 1 inch and 3/16. So I went ahead and marked the cut around, and also the cutout to access the axle for oiling purposes. You cut it out. This is what you're going to end up with.
How much did you cut out in the middle?
Okay.
Does it matter?
It doesn't matter. I usually go halfway.
Halfway.
Halfway around the tubing,
Yeah.
if you notice here.
Okay, and then the length of the cutout.
And the length of the cutout is, I measured 1/8 of an inch from each end.
Each end. Oh.
Once the motor pod is completed, you can actually file further in. If you need more space between here and here, you can go ahead and file it after it's completed.
Okay. All right. Okay.
On video part 1, you would have made this piece at this point we're going to take a measurement from the end of the rectangular tubing to center line of your wheel axle. And that measurement is 7/8 of an inch. As you note here, from this edge to your basic center line of your rear axle, it's 7/8 of an inch. And you're gonna go ahead and mark it on each rail, 7/8 of an inch. And we will line up these 2 points with the center line of your axle, or the center line of the axle on your chassis jig. All right, now we're going to center the 2 marks at 7/8 of an inch from this plane. Center it onto the center line of your axle, which in this case is this line right here. And do that on both sides. Also, center this as close to possible on your jig. Once you have that done, we'll go ahead and tape this down at 2 points while we do the uprights for the axle tubing. Okay, here we have the parts that we're going to need to assemble or set up the axle tubing on the jig. These are collars, but you can use old gears. The collars are just not in the way as much. And these are jig wheels. I just use old gears, but whatever jig wheels you wish to use, they can be substituted. These work pretty good together. And then I'll show you how to set it up on the jig. Okay, first step is obviously putting the bushings in the tube, and then the axle through, and then we are going to put the collars on each side of the axle tube. You can measure this distance from the end of the collar to the end of the axle, or you can do it by eyesight. It's not terribly critical that it be in the center on the axle, but the closer to center you can get it, the better. Okay, now I've assembled the axle with the bushings, and I've placed the collars on each corner, on each side, and tightening them down. Squeezing is real tight so the tubing doesn't spin around. The axle tubing doesn't spin around the axle. And now from here we are going to center this on the jig and then put our jig wheels on the ends. We have the basic motor pod, the main rails to the motor pod set up. We've have the center line of the axle to the marks we made previous. Now we're going to center the axle tube over the main rails and get them as close to center as possible, and put your jig wheels in.
Do you know what size your jig wheels are for certain? The tires are what, 950s or 1 inch diameter?
They're one for GTP. They're 1 inch. Obviously, you would use a smaller jig. These jig wheels or these gears are smaller diameter than the tires, so when you put the tires on, it'll lift it up. This particular diameter is 0.905. So with a 1 inch wheel, you have plenty of clearance. So once we have one jig wheel set up, we'll just go ahead and put the other one on there. squeezing it tight,
Okay.
and having the axle tube, the opening at a 90 to the block.
Yeah.
Now, once this is completed, you can make this opening as big as you want. This is just my arbitrary size. Now squeeze the jig wheels together and tighten. So now you have your tubing as close to center to your main rails.
Okay.
Okay, now the next step is we're going to, using 0.055 piano wire, we're going to make 4 L brackets. A pair of large L brackets and a pair of smaller L brackets, and I'll show you what the measurements are for these. The measurements, we're going to bend the large L bracket 3/8 of an inch. Measure 3/8 of an inch and then do your bend. For the small L bracket, we're going to go 3/16 and bend. This distance from here to here, I made it 3/4 of an inch. You can leave it longer, you can leave it shorter. That's going to be cut off later on. But you want to leave a little bit so you can handle it with your hands or your pliers. As you can see, we've completed the 4 L brackets, and they're lined up in the orientation of assembly, and we're showing the final assembly so you can see how they go together. And you can see at this angle how the larger, you could see at this angle how the larger L bracket goes towards the back, and then the smaller one goes towards the front. And the reason for this is it gives you more room in the motor compartment. If we had the wires coming out this way, as we normally do, an L bracket going to the front, that would reduce the space for our motor. So doing it this way maximizes the space for our motor. So if we need to move it, angle winder it, sidewinder it, whatever the case may be, you have plenty of room in here. Onto the motor pod main wires and the axle tubing. And how we're going to do this is we're going to take the big wire first. Okay, first of all, let me explain these tubings here. Something I didn't explain in the first video is I put these tubings in there as spacers to equal the same the same height from the base. So these wires are level as opposed to pointing down. So that's what these 2 pieces of brass are. They're basically spacers. You're going to take the large L bracket and you're going to have the long side facing up, short side facing towards the back of the chassis. You're going to go ahead and butt it up against the axle tubing, and in this case it allows us to go as straight up and down as possible.
And then the bottom piece is going into the tubing. The tubing is maintaining the height, right?
No. This is going to go all the way to to the ground. Cut it. Cut. Set up. Okay. So our main rails are level. Now we're going to go ahead and put the L bracket in place. Short side down and facing the back. You can go ahead and hold it down with your finger and make sure it's straight up and down. You're going to come here with some flux. Reposition it and go ahead and solder it in place. Just go ahead and tack it. And then we're going to repeat with the other side. Short part of the L bracket going towards the back. Have your spacer in place. Add flux. And solder in place. Okay, I went ahead and soldered the long upright to the main rail here and here. These two wires together are creating a gutter where the short uprights are going to be placed in. Now, they're a little long, so I'm going to go ahead and shorten the short end of it ever so slightly. Went ahead and shortened both ever so slightly, less than the 32nd of an inch. This part of the short upright is going to fit in the gutter created by these two wires together and then soldered to the back of the axle tubing. Something I haven't said, but all four of these uprights were pre-tinned with solder to make it easier to solder. To the axle tube and then to the main frame in the gutter that these two wires right here created. I'm going to show an alternate method of securing the axle tube to the main rails. This was a two-piece setup. I am going to show you an alternate of achieving the same purpose with just using a U-bend on the wire. Again, this is 055 wire, and I will proceed to make a U-bend to fit the axle to the main rail. Again, you could leave it 3/4 of an inch tall, and then from this point to where your two bends are going to be is going to be basically 3/16. Now I'm just doing it without measurement, but I have my pliers marked with a ridge at 3/16, a gutter for the wire, and I will proceed to bend this to make a U-bend so we can do this process in one piece. Go ahead and put the pliers at the 3/16 mark. right here, and then go ahead and bend it up. Now, once you've gotten to there, you're going to go ahead and straighten it out. And once you're completed, you're going to end up with something to this effect. Make sure they're parallel and at 90 degrees. We have the U-bend underneath the tubing and anchored on each, or I should say touching each side, front and rear, and straight up and down. So we're going to go ahead and make our solder joint, making sure that it's straight up and down and flat on the ground. The solder joint here, we can go ahead and do the other 2 points of solder and we're done. Much more easier to accomplish than the 2-piece, but you have to make sure that your U-bend is exactly the width of the tubing. With the double L setup, that is not critical. On the axle tubing and on the main rail. So now I am going to proceed and make a back brace connecting the axle tubing to the 2 rear uprights, making it one solid unit. The first bend for the back brace, I usually like to have the top of the brace parallel or even with the top of the axle tubing, because when I make the motor brace on top, I like for the motor brace to fit between the axle tubing and the wire and the brace. But that's a personal preference. You can make it as tall or as low or as short as you care for. So I went ahead and made the first bend. Using these uprights, I'm going to use them to measure my second bend. I want them to fit in between. I want the brace to fit in between the 2 uprights. So I'm going to go ahead and mark the brace, push it on the outside of the brace to this upright, and mark the inside, and again come in roughly the width of the piano wire you're using. In this case it's 0.55. So I guess, okay, I went ahead and did my bend at the end of my mark and bent it up and it fit. So we'll go ahead and cut this tail to this length, and we'll go ahead and solder it onto the axle tubing and to the uprights. I just did one side, then you come over and you can solder the other side. Then when you put your motor brace in, it will bridge the axle tubing to the brace. You can lower this a little bit, this distance, the height of it, if you wish to touch the axle brace and the axle tubing, I should say, and go ahead and solder the tubing to the brace. But this should be your final configuration. And with that, it pretty much concludes the piano wire and axle tubing procedure. With this setup, you can go ahead and adjust the height of your, once everything is done, you can go ahead and and adjust the height of the axle tubing to accommodate whatever diameter tires you're using just by unsoldering the tubing and moving it up and down and resoldering it. But this is your final setup. I will go ahead and cut these ears off. With both the U-bend method or the double L method, strongly suggest that you get 022 gauge wire, basically kind of telephone wire, and wrap the base of the two wires together, whether it's the U-bend setup or the double L, wrap it in wire for extra strength and for bulletproofing that setup. But strongly recommended. The first process of the build is your motor bracket.
Right.
Because all we're gonna focus on is the back half of the car. First, we're gonna complete that before we do anything else.
Yeah.
Okay. So here you're gonna get a regular piece of brass.
What is that? 3 by.
This is 4x9.
KNS.
4x10. KNS.
4x10. 032 thick. Right.
If you feel me, you can go thicker if you want.
Yeah.
040, 050.
Yeah.
It's a little bit harder to cut,
Yeah.
but it can be done.
Okay.
But the 032 I found to be easy to work with.
Right.
And once everything's said and done and you put the ribbing on, it's super strong.
Okay.
And my cars have taken wall shots,
Yeah.
and they've been able to just be put back on the track and keep on going.
Right.
Your body will break, but the frame is not.
Right.
So that's basically what you start with.
Okay.
Now, they have, on these cuts, they have a sharp edge and a round edge
Oh.
on the metal.
Oh, okay.
You know, where I'm assuming where they shear it. So yeah, I always like putting the round, and that's just a personal preference, put the round edge on the bottom. Just
Okay.
because. Most of this is going to get cut out anyway, but I like the round on the bottom.
Okay.
So once you have your piece, then you're gonna mark.
And the pieces are relatively flat.
Most of them, they haven't had to flatten them or tweak them or anything like that. They're all flat. Now what you will have to do on these is they're not always square.
Yeah. When they
So
cut
you're gonna get your square and you're gonna find a corner
it. Yeah.
that is square to your liking, the squarest corner you can find.
Okay. Yeah.
So once you have that piece and you have your corner marked, what we're gonna do is establish a center line.
A center line.
Okay, because everything's gonna be based on the center line.
Okay.
So you're gonna take your square, and in this case, we're making the chassis 3 1/8 inch wide.
Okay.
It's gonna be a GTP chassis.
All right.
3 1/8. So you're gonna take your ruler, mark it 3 1/8 here, and since you're using these two corners, you're gonna come over here and mark it 3 1/8 here,
Okay.
and I'll do it with red. Okay. Once you have those points established, you're just gonna connect them.
Connecting the line. Okay.
Okay. Now from those lines, we're gonna find square, or the center. I mean,
Line.
so half of 3 1/8 is 1 9/16.
Yeah.
So you can establish that on both points.
Okay.
Once you got those points down, you're going to take it and go ahead and draw a line
Okay.
in that. And then in that same motion, you're going to come with your scribe.
Scribe.
And you're going to scribe that line.
Yeah, that's good.
Right where you marked it, you're going to scribe it. Now it won't erase.
Yeah, right.
And it'll be a consistent.
Yeah.
It'll be a constant.
Right.
Okay. So now you have to establish how long you want to make it.
Yeah.
Again, using one side. In this case, it's going to go 6.5. So you use your square or any piece of metal to square it up here. I'm sorry, 6 5/8.
6 5/8.
Yeah, which is interesting because
yeah, is that just for a particular body?
This
or
distance,
wheelbase, or what?
Strictly the body.
Strictly the body.
Strictly the body. It has nothing to do with wheelbase. This distance will vary according to how far overhang you want. And I'll show you that in a minute.
Okay.
This is your basic GTP chassis, which is about this distance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
You can make it whatever you want, but this is what we're gonna be dealing with.
Right.
That distance is like, for instance, in this other cut, it's a little bit shorter.
Right.
Not by much.
Not much.
Considering it's a 911 as opposed to a GTP.
Wow.
So, okay, once you've established how far you want to go, on these lines, you don't have to scribe.
Yeah.
Okay. But here's something I do, and that's just my preference. I mentioned 6.5 earlier. That's what I had marked this other piece at 6.5, and realized that I wanted to go 6 5/8. So what I did is I marked 6 5/8, but in a different color pen.
Yeah.
So I know I know not to cut.
Okay.
I'm on the red line now and not the black line.
Yeah.
And I have 3 or 4 different colored pens for that purpose. So on this one, I'm going to cut the red line.
Okay.
On this one, and then the black on that.
What are you going to use to cut it with? A Dremel?
I'm just using a regular Dremel,
Dremel?
but I'm using the flex shaft setup because it's less fatiguing on your hand,
But it
and
still
you
has
have
enough
more.
power, the
You have
flex
more.
shaft.
Oh yeah, you have way more control. Okay, on this setup, I have the lines established.
Yeah.
When I do my cut, I'm gonna leave the line.
Okay, so
You're not going to cut on the line. You're not going to cut over the. When you cut, you're going to cut where you can continue to see the line
See the line.
and get as straight as possible.
So you're just going to cut to the outer edge of the line, basically.
Right. I just want to make sure as I'm cutting that I see it.
Okay.
Okay. On this cut here, same thing, but I'm cutting all the way through on this one, on the red line.
Oh, okay. Okay.
On this black line, it's not necessary to cut all the way through.
Okay.
So, and you'll see why. So I'm going to go ahead and establish a gutter cut. I'm not going to go through immediately. All I want to do is run this line to establish a gutter.
Yeah.
And then once you establish the gutter, and then you can come back, run it a couple times, and it'll cut through.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's important that you have good lighting so you can see the line. You can see where the blade is and where the line is. So basically, you're going to cut like this so you can actually see it. Okay?
You're going to do it like what? Show that again. Just show the...
Yeah, I'm going to cut along the outside of the red line.
Okay.
Okay? Now, in a case where you don't have good lighting, you could take a portable lamp and put it on there so you can really see what you're doing. You know, especially at night, obviously.
Right. Right.
But right now it's good enough lighting to where.
Yeah. Okay.
And when I cut, whenever I can, I actually hold the saw stationary and move the metal.
Okay.
Because as the saw is cutting, it's pulling the metal, depending on how. So you can just kind of guide the metal along.
Oh, I see.
So Again, you don't need a flex shaft, but it makes it a lot more. So that would be your gutter cut.
Okay.
You could still see
Yeah.
that I have the. You could still see the red line.
Yeah.
Okay. So now we're gonna come back and and run it one more time.
Yeah.
Can you see? I'm holding the saw stationary, and I'm just running the metal. Be careful on the end. Sometimes it get caught. It'll get caught, and so you kind of want to cut that and start again. And you're gonna run it again. Your rear wheel center line will vary depending on the body you're using or how much overhang you want.
Yeah.
Okay. I've established, but the distance from the center line of the axle to the rear cut of the box of the opening and the center line to the front cut is a fixed measurement.
Okay.
I've written it down.
Yeah.
It's from center line of the wheel to the back of your plate to your center line is 1 inch. In this particular case, it'll vary.
It'll vary. Yeah.
In this case, it's 1 inch.
Okay.
Again, that can vary, but the distance between the back cut and the axle, which is 3/8 of an inch, and the distance from the center line of the axle to the front cut is 1 1/8 inch.
Oh, okay.
And that is a fixed, no matter what chassis you're building, because that's what the motor pod fits.
Yeah. Okay.
That's the space for the motor pod. Doesn't need to be any bigger, and it shouldn't be any smaller.
Okay.
Okay?
All right.
So once that's established, so you're going to go ahead, come here, and one inch from the back, 1 inch. Okay. Do your marks. Draw your line. Take your scribe and run your scribe for the center line of the rear wheel.
Okay.
That way it's not erased. Okay, and you have a guideline.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So now this is three-eighths from center line to back cut. 1 1/8 from center line to front cut.
Okay.
Okay. Now the width, it's a total width of 1 3/8. The opening. So you're gonna using the center line, which is why the center line is so important. You're gonna go and mark 1 3/8. So that's, let's see what half is. So go ahead and mark half, and then the other half, and that should give you 1 3/8
Okay.
center. And you do the back side, and then you establish with your marker. Your box.
Yeah.
You don't need to scribe it.
Uh-huh.
You're going to cut it all out anyway. And again, you follow the same procedure. You do your gutter cut, leave the line.
Yeah.
You do your gutter cut, then your final cut.
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and, I'm going to go ahead and cut it, okay?
Okay.
So as you can see, the cut,
Yeah.
I left the line all the way around.
Yeah.
Might be a little warm to the touch, so, and then this should pop out.
Oh. Excellent.
Okay, and there you have your cutout.
Then do it in the bison.
Yeah. I just want to take the birds out. Okay, now just to show you the difference in different type of bodies, I'm going to show you another cut that I did for another car.
Okay.
You'll notice how much more overhang it has from here to here as opposed to from here to here.
Yeah. Okay.
But your center lines,
Yeah.
which is right here,
Uh-huh.
are the same.
Okay.
And that's basically so your motor pod fits inside.
Yeah.
On the motor mount, we established a center line scribed into the receiver.
Yeah.
I'll call it the receiver.
Okay.
Okay, that's center line. You line that up to the center line that you put on the chassis.
Okay.
So that should be close to on center.
Yeah.
If you have a bigger gap here than here, and it's not, it's okay. It's
Yeah.
the gear is still clear. And you can always cut into this file, open it, make this opening bigger. Okay.
So this opening will always be wider than where the gear.
Right, and you can always, if for those who are using bigger gears like 52s or maybe 53s, they should fit inside of there. If for whatever reason they don't, you can just come in and relieve an opening here.
Yeah. Okay.
So, okay, at this point, you're going to establish this center line to center line.
Yeah.
That's why the center lines on everything you do is important, because that's what you're going to use to. So you're going to come over here and you're going to mark. Okay, in this case, I'm going to use a green, so as not to confuse it with the red. Once you have it established center line there to there, you're going to come and you're going to trace out the ears that are. So there you have where they're established center to the motor bracket that you're going to use, which they should all be. Once this is done, all of those brackets should fit on this motor. Now, you can make the receptacles as long or as short as you want. I've established 1/4 of an inch to be more than adequate. So you're going to mark 1/4 of an inch here, and 1/4 of an inch here from your back cut.
Okay.
Then you'll go ahead and and then you could just extend your lines freehand if you wish. You notice that there's more space here than here. You can adjust that when you're on your cuts. You can adjust that. There'll be some adjustments made. And basically, we're gonna make the slots to fit 3/32 square tubing, and we're gonna make these fit in there.
All right.
Okay. So again, I'll get the Dremel. In these particular cuts, that's why it's nice to have the shaft, because you can get a lot lower, and with the regular Dremel you can do it, but it's much bulkier. This you can almost go flat. Okay, so that's another advantage to the flex shaft. Once you do the top side, you want to turn it around and square it off. Test fit the tubing. It doesn't fit, right? So you're just going to go back and adjust your cuts until these just barely slide in. The tighter the better. If when you go to the next stage and it needs adjusting, you could just cut. You can make your adjustments on just one side to fit. So, but the wire, the tabs are almost center of the cuts. Okay, so that means we could just enlarge both sides, and rule of thumb would be go ahead and eliminate the line on these particular cuts, because that'll make it to where you're. So let's go ahead and adjust them. any hardware store or automotive will have.
Oh,
These are
okay.
great for deburring the flat parts.
Oh, okay.
So I'll just lay it down.
Yeah. How much grit paper do you normally use?
This is 400
400. Okay.
regular wood, or you can use a wet and dry.
Yeah.
But so when you put it on the thing, it's pretty much flat, because you want the receptacles to lay flat inside of the.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, you want to do the top just to clean the solder area. Get rid of the marks. You no longer need the marks, and that's why it's important to scribe the center line, because no matter what you do, it's always going to be there.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and put the receivers in. Now on this, you just cut it over here to size. It doesn't have to be precise, just as long as it's all the way to the back. Because basically once they're in place, they're going to be cut flush with this line.
Oh, okay.
So the overhang is irrelevant on it. Okay?
Okay.
So I'm going to go ahead and cut my pieces. So make sure the flat side, the flat clean side, as opposed to the ugly cut side, goes inside of the chassis. Simply because you're going to cut the ugly side off.
Okay.
Now, I'm going to solder on this.
Okay.
Because it'll burn through on it. Not burn through, but... Now, on these pieces, you can clean them up. We're only going to tack one side on each one.
All right.
Okay? I'm going to push down on it to make. We'll go ahead and line this one up. There we go.
Are you positioning it so they're kind of floating, or they're actually touching the wire?
You try to you want to center them,
Center?
you know, or max both sides,
Yeah.
and it'll as you use a car, it opens up and it becomes
Yeah.
you can feel some side to side movement, as you can see. So that's kind of what you want.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go ahead and finalize The other side. Clean it up. And cut these off.
All the way up to the edge.
Yeah, flush with the, or close to it, and then you can file it flush. This is clean, you can get the file. Just cut out. Gotcha. Okay, so now you have receptacle in place. They're pretty much equal distance.
Okay.
I line up, my center lines pretty much line up.
All right.
Okay. So now you're gonna get some, in this case I'm gonna use 055 wire.
Really?
Yeah. Just for marking
Oh,
purposes.
just for marketing.
Yeah.
So it's a
Because
tight
it's a
fit.
tighter fit.
Okay.
So you're gonna go ahead and run your 5.5 wire.
Okay. Okay.
Going through your lines. It's going through. It's equal distance here and here. Your center lines pretty much mark up.
Okay.
So you're gonna hold this in place. So here you've established where your side receptacles are going to go. 3/8. So 1, 2, 3/8. You're about there. And from this point, there is 1, 2, 3/8. Again, going from center line to here is 15/16. You can pretty much, you could have made it 1 inch if you wanted to. 1 inch.
Yeah.
But you don't really need much more than this. And the less obviously you cut into the plate, the better off you are.
Yeah.
So we'll go ahead and leave it at that.
Okay.
But that could vary. So now I'm going to go ahead and repeat the same process that I did for this. Despur it. You will come with the you pick it up, you check it for flatness. So now that you're good, you're going to take your 039. Make sure again that your square end is on the chassis side. You're going to be adjusting the other side. Okay, so it's clean it. Tacked in, and you leave them tacked just in case you need to move them. Come back with the mark. Okay, now in this case, on this cut, you're gonna make sure you leave the mark.
Leave the mark.
Leave the mark on this one because where you're marking it is the extreme outside.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't fit, and then you come back with the file and you want to start off tight, and then you can adjust the motor pod.
Okay.
But we're gonna go as tight as possible. Okay, so once it's marked, see if it fits. And you get your 047 wire, and it should go through. And it has a little bit nicer. But there you go. And it's a little loose in the front, but not bad. Hold it in place just in case. This one. Turn it around. Clean it. And you can come back and does this one fit? That one fits. It's a little tighter, but that's just adjusting this. And that one fits.
That one fits. Alright.
And this one should fit. It's just going to be crooked. But all three of those, which had nothing to do with the build,
Right.
fit.
They all fit.
And you know, you can make this a little bit bigger, but the receptacles in the back fit. The front is.
So what are you going to do now?
I'm going to do my measurements for my nose.
For the nose piece?
For the nose piece cutout.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Since you're there. The standard cutout is 2 1/8. That distance can vary depending on the car, the size of the car, or the size of your dropout. If you want to make the guide dropout smaller, you would just increase this size, this distance.
Okay.
Like on this one, it's 2 1/4
Yeah. Okay.
because I wanted to make the nose piece smaller.
Yeah. All right.
But I'm just gonna stick with the 2 1/8. Measure it and mark it.
Okay.
Okay. Again, referencing your center line.
Yeah.
Your rear opening is 1 3/8,
Okay.
and we're gonna follow that same distance for the nose piece.
All right.
So that this cut is in line.
Yeah. Okay.
So you're gonna half of 1 3/8 is 8, 9, 10, 11 16ths.
Okay.
From center to center gives you a total of 1 3/8. So you're gonna go ahead and mark that on the line, both from go ahead and mark it 1 3/8 here and there, and mark it here and here from center out, and you go ahead and draw your we're going to determine our axle center line, front axle center line.
Okay.
And basically you're going to take the body that you're going to use and add the distance from one wheel opening to wheel opening, and then add half the distance of the wheel well opening,
Okay.
which
That gives
in
you
this
that.
case is an inch and 1/4, if I'm not mistaken. 1 1/8 is 1 inch. So half of that distance is half an inch.
Okay.
Then you're gonna come over and mark that line. That'll be your wheel center line. Now at this point you're going to scribe that line because you don't want it to erase. So now you have the cutout and your wheel center line.
Okay.
So now we're going to come and we're going to cut along this perimeter.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Okay. All right.
Okay, so here on this chassis, we marked the cutout for the guide nose, and here's the cutout.
Ah. Okay.
already done.
Already done.
And this is an extra piece I had, so you'll notice it's shorter, but the principle applies. You can see that I made this one a little bit longer than this one, but and I lined up the two center lines of the axle. But the same principle applies.
Yeah.
Just simply cut. And that piece that you cut out is what we're going to use to make our guide flag.
Okay.
Okay? You can put this aside. Okay. And now we're going to proceed in making the nose piece.
All right.
And it's about a 5-step procedure. So,
before you get started, do you have any finished nose pieces?
yeah.
What we're going to end up with.
Okay, that's the finished nose piece.
Okay.
And we're also, in this process, we're gonna make a template first. In that template you're gonna keep, and you only have to make this template one time, and you can use the template to repeat this just by tracing over the perimeter of the template, by lining up the center lines.
Okay.
Okay, so let me move these out of the way. Okay, here I have a piece, 4 different steps, and this is all going to be done by measurement and based on the center line of your cutout piece. These are 4 different pieces, but on one piece of brass. Okay, the first measurement you're going to make is you're going to establish a center line for your guide. You need at least 3/16 of an inch from the center of your guide out. You can have as much meat out here as possible as you want, because it's all going to be cut off. But it's a minimum of 3/16 of an inch from this line to the front. It's 3/16.
Okay.
Okay, so you establish that line.
Yeah.
Straight across. Now from the 3/16 line going back, you're gonna mark another line 3/8 of an inch.
Okay.
From the 3/16 line back 3/8 of an inch, and then you're gonna mark that one coming across.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Now. At the 3/8 line, which is this line here, you're going to mark 1/4 of an inch on each side, giving you a total of a 1/2 inch. You're gonna mark it there and there for a total of 1/2 inch.
Okay.
Now you're gonna come up to the 3/16 line, and from center out, you're going to mark 3/16 on each side of the center line. Okay. Once you've established those marks, you are going to join the 1/4 inch at the 3/8 line.
Oh, okay.
And the 3/16 and mark it.
Okay.
Okay, so now you've established your guide angle.
Okay.
Now, from your 3/16 line, from the corner to the center of the 3/8 line, you're going to join those 2 lines right there. You're going to mark it from the center of the 3/8 to the outer edge of your 3/16. Okay, and you're going to do it on both sides.
Both sides.
You're going to go from center of the 3/8 line to the end of the 3/16. Now, mind you, this distance from here to here is this distance, which is 1 3/8. You've already on your build, you've already established your center line
Yeah.
because you cut it out of the.
Okay.
Okay. Now once you have these marked, now you're just gonna cut. You're gonna cut these lines where I have the arrows pointing. Those are the lines we're gonna cut.
Okay.
When you do that cut, the first cut is going to be this one all the way to the 3/8 line.
Yeah.
On both sides.
On both sides.
You're going to end up. Once you've established the lines intersecting, which basically looks like a little star, you're going to come to the 1/4 inch point on the 3/8 line on both sides, and you're going to punch that intersection.
Yeah.
Now you're going to come to the 3/16 line and center, and you're going to punch. You're going to punch that,
Okay.
and that's going to be for your guide flag.
All right.
Okay.
Okay.
Once you've established once you've punched those 3 points, now you can go ahead and cut.
Okay.
Well, first you're going to get a 3/16 drill or 1/16 drill. And you're going to drill out those 3 holes. And these 2 holes right here will look like this one.
Okay.
And then on this one, drill a 1/16 all the way up to 1/8 of an inch. You'll graduate. And then you'll use a unibit or a regular drill, but a unibit works great to drill out your guide hole.
Okay.
So when you're done with this stage, and now you're ready to cut. You're going to go ahead and cut this line first,
Yeah.
this line second.
Yep.
Once this is cut, then you're going to come and cut your angle cut.
Okay.
So you'll cut here, here, and then you'll cut here and here up to the guide, the tongue. So at the second point, now this will be, you can cut a little triangular piece in each corner,
Yeah.
and so later we're going to make it round
Okay.
to fit the guide.
All right.
Okay, so you're going to end up with looking like this.
Yeah.
Okay, now you're going to come to step 3. Once you round the corner and everything, you're going to end up with this. Now what we're going to do is at the 3/8 line, we're going to mark up 1/16, a 1/16 of an inch. Sorry. A 1/16 of an inch at this point
Yeah.
over here, and we're going to draw a line coming across.
Okay.
Okay, so now at the 3/8 line, you're going to take a scribe, and you're going to scribe this area from hole to hole. It's going to come out, and then you're going to mark a 1/16 of an inch like previous, and we're going to scribe that coming across.
Okay.
To make it taller, you would just increase this line.
Yeah.
From 1/16 to whatever.
Yeah.
To reduce, to make it flatter, obviously you would go from 1/16 to a 32nd. But I have found that 1/16 is ideal.
Okay.
Now the reason for scribing the 2 lines is strictly for the metal to have memory. That way you can control where it bends a little bit better.
Okay.
That's the only reason you scribe it, and you could scribe it as deep as you want, so when you bend it, it'll follow that. Okay, now comes the bend. These are the tools you're going to need, either a flat nose or needle nose with the flat surface, and a pair of 9s.
Very nice.
These work great.
Okay.
Okay, what you're going to do for your bend is you are going to put your needle nose along the 16th, along your first line.
Okay.
Okay. The reason for this is you don't want your 3/8 line to bend. You're just bending the line that you do at the 16th of an inch.
Okay.
Okay? And you're gonna squeeze your needle nose and bend down on your 9s. Doesn't have to be much. Okay. Okay, when you've established that bend, and the amount of bend could be 45 degrees or less. It's not.
Yeah.
Okay. Once you're at this point, take it off. You're gonna go back with your 9s, and you're gonna go to the 3/8 line.
Okay.
And don't worry that you're gonna flatten your previous bend. Don't worry about that.
Yeah.
You're gonna go to that line.
All right.
Okay, at that point, you're gonna bend this up 45 degrees.
Okay.
Okay? So it's gonna look like this.
Yeah. All right.
All right? Now, you go back with your 9s to the 16th inch line. Line it up. And now you're gonna bend down
Bend down.
to where you're straight.
Yeah.
And now you're going to end up with a piece similar to this. Now you'll notice this one's a little bit taller than this one. You can adjust that by rebending them. But when you bend it back down at your 3/8 line,
Yeah.
it's just naturally going to leave a lip.
Yeah.
You can almost never get it flat again, which
Oh, yeah.
works to your
Yeah.
advantage this
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
Now let's just say you're at this point right here, and you want to raise it up a little bit. Like if
Yeah.
you notice, this one's a little taller
A little
than
bit
this
higher,
one.
Yeah.
Okay, you just simply go back to the 3/8 and bend up,
Oh, straighten it.
and then go back to the 16th, pull out a little further,
Yeah.
and hold it and bend
Yeah. Okay.
until you get
Yeah.
a little higher. And now you notice that it's you're able to adjust
Raise it. Yeah.
the height to your liking. So when you're all done, you're gonna end up with this,
Okay.
and then you get a file and clean the edges, and test fit it for the guide and make sure that you have full motion, full movement of the guide from one end to the other, and it should all work with minimal. If you did your cuts right if you did your cut right up here, this will almost need no adjustment. But if you want more movement, just simply cut into this angle.
And then most of the time, when you make these bends, the guide is relatively flat to the top surface.
It is parallel. the guide tongue is parallel to your piece. Is that what? Oh, you mean
Side to
square, side to side.
Yeah.
If you can notice them, they're pretty straight, and I haven't really straightened them out too much. If your lines are correct, and when you do your bends, you're precise
And then,
on your
and then,
bends,
of course,
because it's
yeah.
the way it's going to go crooked. If you take your pliers and instead of being right on line, you're like this.
Yeah.
If you're cockeyed
Right.
and try to bend it,
Yeah.
it's gonna come out crooked. One side is gonna be, but if you notice these pieces, I did them right before your very eyes, and they're pretty flat.
Yeah. Do you put any upward bend in it at all? Like Gormac does with his tongue? There's a few degrees upward because to accommodate for the slant of the chassis.
Right.
from rear to front.
You can adjust these tongues to whatever angle
Whatever
you
you
want.
want,
You
yeah.
can go anywhere from
Easily.
nose down to nose up.
Yeah.
All you do
Yeah.
to adjust it is you just go up
Yeah.
or down.
Right.
Because your like if you'll notice, this one
Yeah.
is angled much more up than
yeah.
this one is.
Okay.
But you can just take it and flatten it out. And now it's pretty much parallel to the.
Yeah. Okay. Very good.
And so you'll end up with basically this right here. You'll notice this one's shorter, only because it's going on a chassis that has a shorter. So, but this can go as long. You can make it as long as you want, or you can make it as long as you want, or as short as you want. Depending, you don't need a jig, but
It's helpful.
it's helpful to hold. Either that, or you can just get a piece of tape and hold it on your block.
Yeah.
So it doesn't move around.
Yeah, I've done that a lot.
What you're gonna do is attach the nose piece to the square tubing. Is
Square tubing.
330 seconds
Okay.
by .014 wall thickness.
Okay. 37.
Okay. And this is what we're going to use to attach the nose piece to the chassis.
Okay.
Normally, my center line for my axle will coincide with the 3/8 line of your nose piece. So here's your center line of the axle, and here's the 3/8 line of your nose piece.
Okay. I see.
In this case, what we're going to do now is the axle is going to bend forward, because what I am doing here is reducing the distance between the center of the guide to the center of the axle of your center line of the front wheels.
Okay.
Normally I would have it over here. And basically it would line up like this. Center line all the way across.
Okay.
That would put your axle straight up,
Yeah.
which is kind of ideal.
Yeah.
Now we have the center lines. Center line of the axle and center line of your piece.
Okay.
Now this is another advantage to using the piece you cut out. Because now you're not establishing the new center line. You establish your center line over here. You want to hold this in place when you're marking, so you just get a piece of tape. You're going to do one side at a time.
Okay.
Make sure that this center line, this center line, and this center line line up.
Yeah.
And this center line on your nose piece. Once
Okay.
you've established that, you go ahead and tape it together.
Okay.
You notice there's a gap back here. In this phase of the job, you don't have to worry about that.
Okay.
Okay, so now you're going to take your piece of tubing, and you're gonna put it parallel to the outside cut. Then you're gonna come with your marker and mark your nose piece.
Okay.
Now you come over here, you establish your lines. Tape it, get that same piece of tubing. Run it parallel. to your frame outside and then mark that. Now you notice this is wider than this. You really don't have to worry about that because this piece of tubing is gonna take care of it's gonna run parallel to this cut right here.
Oh, okay.
Now we're gonna cut one at a time. The reason is I want to cut, establish that tubing there before I do the other side.
Oh.
Because during your cut and all this other stuff, something's going to change.
Yeah.
So you just want to do one cut at a time.
Okay.
And which side you cut is because you can measure all day long.
Yeah.
But once you get the cut done, it's going to tell you. Okay. Okay, and what we're gonna do is put the tubing even with this piece right here at the back. Once it's on, you can cut it or center here. You have your space in there, and you're good to solder it.
Okay. So what are you going to do now? You're going to solder?
What I'm going to do now is I'm going to solder this piece.
Okay.
Probably tack it,
okay.
just in case it has to be moved.
Yeah.
You'll notice that it's a little off, maybe, not by much. But that's okay, because your 3 points are square. And you're going to need a little movement back and forth anyway. Go ahead and just going to tack it front and rear. Okay, so now we've established one side. Now we're going to go ahead and cut this off and establish the other side.
Okay.
We're going to go ahead and cut this piece following this angle all the way out.
Okay.
Okay? Blunt this, flatten out the sharp edge.
Oh.
And file it. Actually, you know what? I could just see. This seems a little crooked, but I don't think it much matters. You can always adjust the frame. Once your nose piece is done, you can adjust the distance just by cutting into the frame.
Yeah.
Okay. Run it parallel. Mark it with your green pen. You're going to go ahead and put the tubing in on the other side.
Okay.
And if you wish, you could put it all the way to the end. So you have something to push up against, and it's because you just come back and cut that off, trim it.
I see.
See, so now I'm establishing my center line and pushing this all the way over. So basically, This side's going to be straight, and you just have to adjust this side. You know, if it doesn't come out perfect the first time. So once you've established where you want it to go, tack it in place. Okay.
Okay.